Did you know that out of the 15 levels in World at War's speedrun, there's actually only 3 levels where we don't have to wait for teammates and we can just go straight to the ending? Let's first cover Vendetta, as that happens to be the most interesting. So at the start, we're stuck with this sniper, and this sniper kinda has abysmal stats, the most important of which being mobility, which it only has 171 in. So immediately after killing these 8 guys, we want to dump this sniper for something a little bit better. Luckily, one of these guys has dropped the MP40. The MP40 is one of the best weapons in the game, coming at a top speed of 190. Normally, we have to wait for Reznov to catch up to us in the next building, so we can go through an entire monologue before we can progress. But it turns out if we jump on top these shelves and then use a special keybind called plus strafe, we're able to precisely maneuver ourselves around this corner, and from here we can access the next room. But regardless, we have to wait for him to open the door in the next room anyway, right? Well, as it turns out, there's this beam in the middle of the room, and if we precisely line ourselves up under the beam and then stand up, we're going to perform a glitch called an elevator, and from here, we have access to out of bounds. Now that we're out of bounds, you're probably wondering, what are we even doing out here? With over half the level still yet to be completed, and the fact that we have no way back in bounds from here, we're kinda stuck out here. Well, the way this level works is that at the very end, we have to snipe this guy named Amsel, and it turns out the trigger to spawn Amsel actually exists outside of the map over in this general area, and if we jump, we could just barely touch the trigger to spawn him in. As it turns out, after we kill Amsel, we're actually going to teleport straight to the ending of the level, and from here, we're able to complete it normally after we run up these stairs and jump out the window. Now that we've covered Vendetta, let's briefly go over the next 2 levels as they're pretty straightforward. So for Blood and Iron, we don't actually have to complete any objectives here, and we can just drive our way straight to the ending. But Black Cats is even better. As for Black Cats, we don't have to press a goddamn thing. We can just AFK the entire level and it'll eventually complete itself. But I will say, this does have a banger of a soundtrack. This video is not about what we've already know, it's about what we've learned, and as it turns out, Heart of the Reich can be beaten in the exact same fashion as the previously mentioned levels. We can go straight to the ending without waiting for any teammates, and this is accomplished by a 9-year-old glitch that we are only just beginning to understand how it works. So join me as we discuss how speedrunners have broke World at War. To get a better understanding of how this level works, we're going to do a walkthrough of the current route that runners use today, as it is mostly intended. Now at the very start, you're going to notice something weird. This does not look like normal Call of Duty movement. Well, actually, it is normal movement, and it's all thanks to the command jump, slow down, enable. You see, in multiplayer, this command is set to 1, and what that does when enabled is that when you land from a jump, you actually get a movement penalty where you can't immediately reach top speed afterwards. However, in the campaign, this is set to 0, which allows us to do movement like this, where we can chain jumping and sprinting with each other without losing any top speed. And this is called strafe jumping. Now, as we round this corner, we're going to be hitting our first trigger in the level. Turns out, this is actually tied to spawning in the first set of the flak cannons we encounter at the end of the level. Now, this is crucial as in order to beat the level, we have to destroy all the flak cannons. As we make our way out of the library, through the trench, and to the end of this tunnel, we'll find ourselves grouped up with the rest of our allies, where we'll then have to wait for some dialogue to finish before we can progress. While we wait, let's discuss some of the triggers that we previously passed making our way over here. Entering the trench for the first time, we can find the trigger that spawns in the last set of flak cannons. Entering the tunnel enables the player to destroy said flak cannons, while exiting the tunnel enables the player to commence the Reichstag assault sequence we can do at the end of the level. Once we're set free after our ally finishes all of their dialogue, we now have access to the rest of the level. Now the first thing we want to do here is obviously destroy all of the flak cannons. Now it should be known that you can destroy the flak cannons with the Panzerschreck, but it is not faster than just manually planting them all yourself, so that's what I chose to do for this run. Once all those are destroyed, we can make our way up the stairs towards the Reichstag, and here we're going to be fighting enemies for about 30 to 40 seconds. When Reznov finally catches up to us, he'll say some dialogue like, after he says that, a Panzerschreck will strike down one of the pillars of the building onto some debris right in front of us, but right before that column hits the ground, make sure you are sprinting, because if you're not, you're going to be forced into the prone animation, which loses a couple seconds when you have to get back up. You may have already realized it, but there's nothing really blocking us from accessing the ending if we were to be out of bounds somehow. So is it possible we can use an elevator like we did on Vendetta in order to get out of bounds to end the level early? It just so happens Heart of the Reich has just that. So at the very start of the run, instead of taking the regular path, we're going to do an immediate left and head back down into the subway system. We're going to stop by the entrance and perform an elevator exactly like we did on Vendetta. Except this time, this wall takes us extremely high up, so we essentially have access to all the rooftops now. Now that we're able to strafe jump from roof to roof, you're probably wondering, how are we supposed to get down from here without dying? Well, in Call of Duty games, some geometry have this property to where no matter how high you fall from, as long as you land on it, you'll live. And these are known as soft spots, and luckily, this tree happens to be a soft spot. Occasionally, you can see me looking left and right while I do strafe jumps, right? But why is that? Well, what I'm trying to do is match the way I look with the movement keybinds I'm currently pressing. So if I'm holding forward and left, I want to be looking left. If I'm holding forward and right, I want to be looking right. Because this actually builds speed. Speed that normally is unachievable if you just sprint and jump while going in a straight line. This is called air strafing or ground strafing. As we approach the ending, the thought has entered into your mind that this is probably too good to be true. And as you can see, when we get to the ending, there's actually this huge invisible wall that blocks any entrance to the exit of the level. Now the next logical step is figuring out, can we get rid of this wall, and what controls this wall that exists in the level? This wall can actually be deleted, but there's two things we need to do. The first one is completing the objective where we destroy all the flak cannons, and the second one is hitting the trigger that exists at the end of the tunnel. So if that's all we need to do, surely this strat is possible in co-op, right? One person does the elevator and goes out of bounds straight to the ending, while the other guy hits the required triggers to despawn that wall that exists at the end. Well, it would be possible if it wasn't for the fact that the way co-op works is once a player reaches a certain point of the level, it's going to teleport the rest of his allies there with him, and that includes the guy who's out of bounds waiting at the end. With no known elevator existing in the final area of the map, skipping the ending to Heart of the Reich has eluded runners for many years, that is, until now. Or actually, until 9 years ago. You see, 9 years ago, a legend by the name of Plasma Burn Gaming uploaded the video onto his channel about his discovery of a glitch in World at War where you could teleport anywhere you want. Now, while this glitch has been known in the speedrun community for quite some time, we have no idea how it works or where we can apply it in the speedrun. So Call of Duty Glitch Hunter Jumper and myself decided to take this glitch into the lab and science out exactly how it works so we can apply it to runs today. And here's what we've managed to come up with for Heart of the Reich. The first difference of the run is that we're going to be swapping out our secondary for the FG42 up ahead. Now, the FG42 may have the worst mobility stats in the game, but we're only picking it up for the attachment, which is the bipod. Now up ahead, we're going to be performing a glitch called Deploy Storage on this box. We're going to be meleeing, holding interact, and swapping our weapons. What this accomplishes is the next time we pull out our secondary, which is the FG42, we're going to be going into the bipod mount animation. Now, normally you're not supposed to be able to do the bipod mount animation wherever you want, so this has some interesting side effects. Levels like this in World at War are all about stamina management. Since we can't strafe jump forever, we have to add in bunny hops in between strafe jumps to regain stamina to start sprinting again. Usually we wait with our teammates here, but we can just jump right over them. We're quite low on stamina right now, so we're gonna have to do a bunny hop off of this railing to cover some more distance before we can sprint again. The final area happens to be one of the most dangerous places in the entire speedrun. So it's crucial that we utilize our PPSH as it happens to be the second best weapon in the entire game. Now, as good as the gun is, we're eventually going to have to reload it, but we don't want to lose speed due to walking during the reload animation. Instead, we're going to do a bunny hop off of this object and reload while we're airborne so we cover more distance without losing time to walking. Now this new route may seem similar to the current one, but what we're doing here is manipulating where the game is going to send us when we switch to our FG42. So once I get on top of these stairs, I'm going to switch weapons and it's going to teleport me outside of the map. This area looks familiar as we were able to access it back when we covered how to do the elevator at the start of the level to reach the ending. But there, remember that invisible wall that blocked us? Well, that no longer exists in this route because we completed all the objectives that will despawn that wall. So now we can just go straight to the ending. How does this glitch work? Well, here's what we know. We need to first find a weapon with a bipod. Then we need to find an object where we can mount the bipod on. This shelf works out great as we can mount on all 4 sides. Instead of mounting, we want to melee, hold interact, and swap weapons. This sets up a glitch called deploy storage, so the next time we swap weapons to our FG42, we're going to go through the bipod mounting animation. Now, you're not supposed to be able to do this wherever you want, so there's some unintended side effects with this glitch. Before we continue, let's enter the commands developer1 and cg_debug mounting1. These are going to visualize exactly what's going on in the background when we execute deploy storage. We can now see that there's these lines that protrude from where we set up deploy storage using our facing angle. Now these lines are key to understanding how the glitch works, so let's get a better view so we can visualize everything that's going on here. The box is where the player is executing deploy storage from, whereas the blue line represents where the game is trying to teleport us to, based on what object it's currently intersecting with. So if we execute deploy storage here, in theory, we should teleport to this wall, right? Turns out that's not the case, but the reason that is if we take a closer look, we can see the line that determines where we teleport to is slightly above the wall, so it's not touching anything tangible, therefore it's not possible to teleport there. Let's put this theory to the test. We're going to execute deploy storage at a distance where the line that determines where we teleport to is clearly intersecting with a tangible object, such as these walls. Even if the line gets long enough to intersect with multiple objects, where we teleport to is determined by the most recent object the line is currently sitting past. We can consistently teleport where we want, as the length of the line that determines where we teleport is always equal to the player's distance from where they set up deploy storage. Alright, that's straightforward. All we gotta do is execute deploy storage far enough away from where we set it up to teleport to exactly where we want, right? There's one more thing. The height where we execute deploy storage also matters. Executing at a similar or lower height than where we set up deploy storage will cause us to enter the standing animation when we get on the bipod. Standing does not work, we want to go prone, and in order to go prone, we need to go higher. Alright, now we know that we both have to be far enough and high enough away from where we set up deploy storage before we execute. Now, when we execute and dismount, we'll teleport and stay there, right? Okay, there's one last thing, I swear this is it. The final step depends on your input method. If you're on controller, all we have to do is hold slightly down left or slightly down right depending on where we're teleporting to while we dismount. Doing so will successfully teleport us. Keyboard and mouse is not as straightforward, as the traditional keybinds of up, down, left, and right give too strong of an input, so we need to have a slight input somehow. We can bypass this restriction by going into controls, move, and binding a key to the option plus strafe. Whenever that key is held, it causes our mouse to mimic the movement analog stick of a controller, so using that, we can just copy the method controllers players use to teleport. Now that we know everything, let's do it all together now. We have to be far enough and high enough away from where we set up deploy storage before we execute. After executing deploy storage, we're going to be put into the prone animation during the bipod stance. From here, on controller, you hold slightly down left or down right on the movement analog stick while you dismount. On PC, we have to have the plus strafe key held down while we move our mouse slightly down left or slightly down right while we dismount. And just like that, we can now teleport in World at War. So this is how the brand new route works for Heart of the Reich. We set up deploy storage on this box at the start, and then once we reach the final area, we'll execute deploy storage to get teleported out of bounds. From here, we can go straight to the end of the level without having to kill any enemies or wait for any teammates. Now that we know how this glitch works, where else are we able to use it? Well, out of the 15 levels in the speedrun, there's only 5 of them that have weapons with bipod attachments. For now, we want to take a look at Ring of Steel, as that has the MG42, and the MG42 does not behave normally with this glitch. We all know that executing deploy storage at a position that forces you into the standing animation does not work. But if we try to execute it at a position which gives us the prone animation, it crashes. Technically, it is possible to do a successful teleport with the standing animation, it's just we don't know why or how it works, as you can't really replicate it and it's extremely difficult to do. So for now, Ring of Steel is kind of out of the question. But that still leaves us with 4 levels where we can test this glitch on, and with time saves already being discovered on levels like Their Land, Their Blood and Heart of the Reich, and you add that on top of all the new strats and discoveries that are frequently coming out for World at War, who knows where speedruns could be a year from now. Big shoutouts to Plasma Burn Gaming for first discovering this glitch 9 years ago, as none of this would have been possible today without him. And thank you to Jumper for your efforts in solving and understanding exactly how this glitch works. If you like Call of Duty glitches, make sure to check out his channel as he posts some pretty interesting content there. Make sure to drop by the COD Speedrun Discord if you're interested in more runs like this. We cover every campaign in the entire series, and we always have an active community ready to answer your burning questions. If you think Call of Duty speedrunning looks pretty cool, make sure to check out my Twitch page as I stream all of my runs there. But for now, that's it for me, and thank you for watching.